guys, welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Van Chats. My name is John Croom, and I'm here with Gavin Hoover, and I'm pouring a beer. And Gavin, what are you drinking right now, man?
I've got a little gin and tonic because there's no beer in the house.
So gin and tonic, a very classic cycling cycling drink. I think that was like Bradley Wiggins's like go-to for solid. But
yeah, vodka soda.
Vodka soda on a diet, and then gin and tonic when you're feeling a little risky. But anyways, so Gavin's background, I'm gonna let him dive into it. But me and Gavin traveled all over the world whenever I got selected to ride Team Pursuit, and well, that didn't work out. We didn't make it to the Olympics. But Gavin was smart enough to start cracking into the Omnium, and actually, I won't even say smart enough, but good enough to start cracking into the Omnium. And he got 7th at Worlds last year in the Omnium. And now he's on the Olympic long list with the potential of 2021 Tokyo. So yeah, man, let's just chat about how you even got into track cycling, where you even got into cycling, and how that all kind of started.
I started on the track, weirdly. Jen was giving me shit about this the other day because I can't mountain bike.
You can't ride a gravel bike either because you only rode it once and you crashed.
I can't really ride a gravel bike either. Off-road is not my special. There was I grew up in LA, and the track there is super close to my house.
Yeah.
And I think Worlds was there in 2006. Okay. And, my parents kind of rode, not really, but rode bikes. And we're like, oh, the World Championships. Let's go watch that. And I was 9. It's like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I want to do this all the time. And there was a junior program there, Connie Cycling, and started that and just kind of progressed through that and started racing on the road a bit as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, did some national team stuff, and then got my head kicked in Europe and came back to the track.
I remember bits of that because that's kind of when I met you. You were kind of a bit shafted with the road side of things because it was a lot of it, let's be honest, you definitely have to be good. Let's be real there. You have to be good enough. But when it comes to certain people, after a while, it starts to become who you know, because you might not be fully developed, but it's willing to give you the opportunity, And I feel like you didn't know a lot of people to get the opportunities. So you kind of created them for yourself. So let's kind of chat about that a little bit, about how, you lived in Belgium for a couple of years, right?
Yeah. I had I did a lot of national team stuff as a junior, and then kind of had some clashes there with national team coaches.
Yeah.
And was like, well, peace. I'm gonna go do this by myself.
Yeah.
And I went over there and lived over there at 18, and raced with the junior team, and that was super sick. And did a lot of the bigger races as a junior, and was getting results. And then at 19 was it was also a big contraction year in US U23 cycling. Cal Giant went away.
Yeah.
Hagens Berman's folded. Maybe Airgas had been a team, and that folded as well. So I was like, well, there was kind of action, and if you weren't good enough for that, there was nothing else.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'll just go back to Belgium. I'll race for a Conti team over there. I had, some connections there. And I did that, and it was just it was a big shift because at 18, I'd been living with a family that was, part of the junior team. And then at 19, went as a first-year elite, lived by myself in a tiny little town, 5K from the bottom of the Claremont, and just repetitively got my head kicked in.
Yeah.
And by the end, 3 months in or 2 months in, I was like, this is not great.
Yeah.
And then in ignorance and stubbornness, I was like, I'll keep going, and stayed for 7 months and just got progressively worse and worse and worse. And then came home and was like, oh man, I do not like bike racing. And then took a little bit of time off, and then the team pursuit program was starting, and I'd had enough of a track background that I got a call about that, and it was like, oh, here's a reason to keep riding.
For sure. And
and you were there, I wasn't very good.
But for how young you were, like, I mean, to already be thinking about, I guess, even talking about this with Johnny Whale on a podcast was like retirement, like define the word of retirement. But like, you were so young, you were about to just straight up hang it up, right?
Yeah, it was definitely like I came back from Belgium in the middle of like September.
Yeah.
I definitely think if I'd come back in classes, been like, all right, I'm done bike racing. But as it was, I came back and there wasn't, I was kind of in this weird limbo where there wasn't a lot else to do.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I like riding my bike. I'll just ride for 4 months and see what happens.
Okay.
And just, yeah. But I mean, it's hard because, we've talked about this. Like I was doing national team stuff at 15.
Yeah.
So you're already
sure.
4 or 5 years deep at that point. So they're like, yeah, it's super young, but at the same time, like you've already lived this lifestyle for quite a while.
Yeah, you essentially rode from 15 to the time you first thought you were going to quit for the amount of time that I've ridden a bike completely, I'm pretty sure. Like at that point. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
pretty close.
And I mean, it even hit me after Belarus or Glasgow or whatever. I was just like, fuck, I don't know if I can do this like much longer, because it's just like such a head spin. So I can only imagine now trying to go to the Olympics. Like, how was that for your head? Like, how was that for your mental game, in the sense of like, oh yeah, there's only like 9 more months, and now it's like, oh yeah, now there's like 18 more months that you need to take this shit seriously.
Yeah. I think the big, like I've realized I actually really like riding my bike.
Yeah.
Which is good.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, because same thing in this quarantine thing.
Yeah. So I've been riding a lot. And then also like it's such a different at Worlds I was like, okay, maybe if everything goes right for me at the Olympics, I can go top 5. Like I can get 2 spots back from Worlds. And then you get an extra 12 months and like 100% I would rather be in Tokyo right now.
Yeah.
I think the Omnium was supposed to be tomorrow, but
wow,
you get another 12 on top of that. Like, okay, now I only got to move 4. You get an extra 12 months to make that happen, and it changes the way I looked at it a lot. Like, it definitely went from a delay that's taking time out of the rest of my life to like this, added 365 days to get another 2 spots back.
Yeah. So now that you have this time, so have you just pretty much been taking the time to ride, taking the time to explore? What's been your best quarantine like experience?
I don't know. I've been lifting a lot.
Yeah.
I think like even in the way we team proceeded, we were pretty like polar op. Like I was doing it on a very fitness aerobic base, and you were doing it on a very like just straight power. So that was a big area for me to close. Was like, okay, let's get in the gym, let's lift heavy. There's no racing, so it doesn't matter if you're just thrashed for 2 months. But I've definitely,
it's funny that you say that, because it's like essentially I'm literally doing the exact opposite of what you're doing. So like I'm on a rolling 20-hour a week kind of schedule right now, where it's just like 20 hours. I've literally had this new coach the matter of 3 weeks, and it's just been, oh yeah, do 20 hours this week, and then next week do 21, and let's increase time in zone 3, and then do 22 the next week. And that's literally just what it's been like. And I'm like, so when do we take a rest week? And he's like, well, are you cracked? And I was like, no, not really. He's like, cool, we'll just wait until you crack. Okay, sounds good. Let's just keep going then, I guess.
I was at the gym today.
Yeah.
Sato gave me like a Hershey's nugget, like little piece of chocolate.
Mm.
It was the best thing I've ever tasted. And I got halfway through it and was like, man, maybe I'm in a bit of a rough state if this tastes this good.
Yeah, this is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so let's kind of dive into your national championship win and how that kind of goes into you getting 7th place at Worlds. Like, we haven't had somebody probably since Brad Huff do well at Worlds. And like, when we talk about doing well at Worlds in the Omnium or in an Olympic event, you know, I mean, top 10, there's only 24 people in this event. And like, we take top 50% as like a pretty decent deal. Like, cause on the track side of things, a lot of those guys are funding their own way to Worlds or whatever else, but you know, what have you. But yeah, we haven't had somebody since Brad Huff, and I'm actually going to Google that. Like, when's the last Brad Huff at Worlds? Because I'm curious.
Like third. I mean, Huff third scratch.
Yeah, but what year was that?
Maybe 2007, 2006.
Yeah, let's Google it. But yeah, so like, let's chat a little bit about like, how did you make the jump? Like, because if I could have guessed the podium at nationals, I wouldn't have had you winning. I definitely would have had you on the podium, but I would not have had you winning. And I would have thought it would have solely been a tactical error, but you raced the hell out of that thing. So let's kind of chat about that. So like, kind of what was your preparation going into nationals, and like, kind of what was your thought process? Because it was almost as if you were prepping yourself for a backup plan.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a misnomer, I think, that like, you know, like I rode the Omnium at Junior Worlds. So there was this misnomer that I was just a team pursuit guy because I'd only been, you know, that's all I'd done for 2 years. And like from day one in the program, as soon as we saw how the Olympic selection was going to go, I was like, all right, well, there's only maybe 2 guys in the program that could ride all 3 events. And I was always looking. I was like, all right, I want to be in 2 events. If the team pursuit qualifies, I want to be one of the Madison riders.
Yeah.
And nationals, like, because we'd had an average team pursuit result at Worlds that year, but we'd had a really good season. Like, we'd been on the podium in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like this full gas back plan. It was like, okay, the team pursuit's like ticking along okay. Some stuff there's a lot still to play for. We're not in a great spot, but it's okay. And then I was like, all right, I'm gonna go try and get this as well.
Yeah.
And just the way that spot was set up was like, the way the qualification worked, I was like, I definitely need to, I treated nationals like it was an Olympic trial. It's like, I need to win nationals to have any shot at getting World Cup starts later in the year.
Yeah.
And I definitely, like, we were in T-Town. I mean, you talked about it. It was just like, you have to be good here, and then you have to be good here.
Dude,
and then 2 days later, you have to be good
here. Oh my God.
Like,
to a point where we're almost getting sick. It's like, I mean, they couldn't.
I remember I went Pan Am Games,
and
I was just like.
Well, Lambie has this whole philosophy of like, if you can't win nationals with being under the pump, or if you can't get 5th that's what it is. If you can't get 5th at a World Cup in training, like in a block, then you're never going to win Worlds. You're never going to be Olympic. And that like actually resonated in my brain. That was one of those things that like, kind of when I was coming back, I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I'm going to take that mentality of like, this next quad, that's how I'm going to look at everything. Even if I go to a national championship and I get 2nd, that's fine. I just want to be on the trajectory of 2024,
Yeah, I think that's where like you look at GB and you're like, how do these guys win every 4 years? It's like, because they're totally willing to throw away world titles, everything. World Cup wins, right? Like everything for an Olympic gold.
Yeah. But I found out that Brad Huff, by the way, was 2007. But anyways, continue. You were right. Right on it.
Yeah. So like we went to T-Town, and you know, you were obviously kind of competing for a TP spot.
Very hard.
Um,
Very, very
yeah.
hard.
But at that point, like me and Lambie were like,
Solidified.
you know, like barring disaster, we were going to be in the TP team.
Yep.
So I was like, all right, I don't need to be good here. Like the coaches are telling me I need to be good here, but I don't actually need to be good here.
But you almost kind of did because of your mass start ambitions. You know what I mean?
But at the same time, like I was willing to, just the way the selection was written, I was like, I will throw all this away so I can win nationals and get the Pan Am spot.
It
So
was
I
just
was
like a big dice roll, like because essentially you're saying,
yeah.
I'm not gonna crash, I'm not gonna get eliminated early,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna race a smart fucking race because that still doesn't show who the best racer is in America or who's ready to race in Europe, in my opinion. Like it just doesn't.
No, it's a terrible selection procedure.
No, like just because you win a UCI race. Well, even if I feel like if you win a UCI race in T-Town, you have a better argument than winning a U.S. national title.
100%. Right,
Yeah.
like Kiwis were there, Canadians were there. It was a way harder field. That being said, I won nationals by like 70 points. You know.
Yeah, dude,
But,
and that's the thing. It's like I don't know if you actually won nationals off your tactics and your smarts, or if you were just super fucking fit. Like, because it was the wildest thing I've ever seen. Hedgeberry was too, though. Like, I've never seen Hedgeberry just like lap the field like it was standing still. It was insane.
The best part of that whole thing was like me and Hedge are just miles ahead of everyone.
Yeah.
And we attack, and we're gonna like no one's chasing us at this point because we're 80 points in front.
Yeah.
And we attack to take a lap. Hedge does not ask me to come through the entire lap. We get like within 50 meters of the back of the field, and there's a point sprint, and I just kind of come up next to him and like bike throw up at the line. And as I'm next to him, he's just like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, it was like a 120 lap match sprint at that point. Like barring crashes and barring anything crazy, like you guys were literally just like, oh, if Hedge took a lap, then you took a lap, and if you took a lap, then Hedge took a lap.
And like I got, I went into the points race with a big enough lead that like the first time Hedge lap, I was still leading. So I was like, all right, I don't have to panic.
Yeah.
And then just went and got one back. And then after that, I don't really think I left his wheel. I was just like, all right, well, this is bike race.
Was there, all right. So understand that there's billions of people listening to this, you know?
I know. I looked at the view count on some of them before this.
It's coffee and van chats. There's a gajillion thousand people listening to this. Was there ever a moment where you were like, oh shit, I'm going to lose this? Or, oh shit, I don't have it?
Dude, not in the points race.
Yeah.
But if you watch the scratch race,
that's the first race, dude. What do you mean?
Dude, there's like 4 of us or 5 of us that are up a lap. It's like me, Hedge, Holloway, Colby, Eric, Klein, maybe.
So the entire team pursuit team.
Yeah, basically. It's like
yeah.
And I'm like set up on Klein and Holloway with like 4 to go. And I'm like, beauty. Like I'll just coast the wheel in, get on the podium. That's good enough. Event 1. And like I get weirdly pinched somehow. I'm like fighting with someone. You see me like almost fall over someone's back wheel. Have no idea how I held it. Go like to last wheel and then just start this charge over the top.
Yeah.
And coming into the bell, I'm just like hooning over the top of everyone. But I definitely had this moment of like, I'm about to get last in the scratch race, and that's going to be Omnium over.
Yeah. So when did you think, well, now rewind. So, or fast forward. When did you think that you had it sealed? Like you were just like, I'm good.
I think like as soon as I was able
billions
to
of people. Oh, when you were taking laps, nose breathing? Yeah.
Yeah. It was like,
yeah, dude. Like I remember watching it, and it literally looked like the two of you were just like, oh, you take a lap? Cool, I'll take a lap. And it was like, it was almost like a game. You know, we do that training, the Omnium training, where you lap the motorbike or whatever, right? And the game of that is to see how fast you can lap the motorbike, I think. Like, I think that's the best part of it. And then you're just completely fucked. But
Yeah.
it literally looked like you guys were like, oh, I'm going to lap it in a kilo. Or I'm going to lap it in 3 laps. Like, I'm just going to see how
We
hard
were
I
at the
can go.
start, and then towards the end, it was like, who can do it the slowest and pick up the most points while they're
Yeah,
out
and
there?
then that stuff started happening, and it was nuts. It was nuts to watch. It was a cool race. So even after you won nationals, which I was super stoked on, it was cool to see because, again, I'm not gonna lie, like if we went back in time and it was like, hey, who do you think's gonna win, or do you think Gavin has a shot at winning? I would have said no. I would have said,
But the best part is Colby was at my house. Like, he stayed with
yeah.
me for nationals, and
He probably
I
would
was
have thought you were delusional too.
like, I'm gonna win the Omnium, and he was like,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't think. Oh, sure, Gav. And I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah. And
hey,
like, 100%. And like, it's just like, and it was no hard feelings. Like, we're still friends. It was all good. It was just like, I mean, that would have been like me
yeah.
going like, at the time, it'd have been like me being like, I'm gonna win the pursuit. It's like, okay, you've been close to Lambie before, but like, think about this. This is a whole nother
Although, for the
year.
record, you are the only person in that velodrome that day that doesn't understand why you didn't kilo him in the final, or
Yeah,
at least try.
yeah. Well, I can explain it. You know what? Because billions of people are listening to this, I'm gonna explain it, Gav. Here's what happened. I raced him in the qualifier.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to go as fast as I fucking could, and I blew
Yeah,
up. We were riding like 102 kilos at our
I've,
second kilo.
I've been there.
It was
I've
not
been talking at like 4:14 pace before, and I'm like, well, Lambie's doing that at 4:06, so I'll see you later.
not a good idea. I just remember hearing like 15.2, and I was just like, oh man, oh god, like we're like a kilo in, and like at that point I blow out to like 17.4s, like at the last.
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
hold
And
on.
so just just fully blown. And then I looked at my coach and I was like, I really want a good time. Like, I
Yeah.
know I can't beat him probably, but I feel like if he goes 417, I could probably do a 420, you know? So let's go on pace for 420. And then sure enough, the dickhead goes out full gas, comes by me and goes, what does he say? He said something. He said, oh, yo, buddy. Said that as he passed me.
You got to be at Pan Am's when we were.
Oh,
So I break the American record. He breaks the world record, and then we're together in the final. He catches me like 6 laps in, and as he's going by, just like, yo, buddy.
yeah.
Like,
So we used to have a coach who would always call us. We'd answer, and we'd hear "Yo, buddy," and so hopefully he's listening to this. I'd really appreciate that. That'd be cool.
yeah.
Yeah, yo, buddy. So maybe he'll text me and say "Yo, buddy," but I don't know. But yeah, so you win nationals, and obviously, like, I didn't think you would win. But then there was like a solid moment where it was like, I don't think anybody else thought you were gonna win either, and so it was like a oh fuck situation. Like, this is what the selection criteria says, but they didn't really want to send you to World Cups because they didn't know. You know what I mean? Because like that's an Olympic spot. Like, if you, again, like we were talking about before you told us about this, like, just because you win nationals does not mean you're European ready.
No, it's truly not a great selection.
Yeah, it's not. It does not make you European ready. So, like, how did you get? But now, mind you, you had that Belgian background. But how did you get European track ready for in the matter of what, 4 months?
Yeah, I mean, I think nationals guaranteed me Pan Am's and 1 World Cup.
Yeah.
And at first, that was all I was going to get. They were like, you get 1. I was like, and I like the backstory is I spent like 2 months where I was on the phone for at least like 2 hours a day arguing with people. Just like every single day I was calling like the coaches, the management at UCI, and just being like, this is unfair. This is like, you need to give me more. And I was very confident. I was like, if you give me 1, like I cannot do this first time, but if you give me 1, I can put this together.
Yeah.
I just argued and argued and argued about it until finally they were like, all right, well, we're not sending a team to Hong Kong. You can go to Hong Kong. So I was like, okay, I have 2. And I got that like when we were in Europe.
Mm-hmm. So very little preparation. This is when we were
But
also
yeah,
supposed to be the
like, so
best we
we did that
possibly could be.
whole, oh, dude, it was,
Oh man.
we did that whole, you know, Minsk Glasgow block.
Yeah.
Progressively lost fitness the whole time we were in Europe.
Oh yeah. Because it's like
And
snowing
I,
and we
I
can't
raced
ride.
Glasgow. Yeah. Pissing rain. It's
Yeah.
freezing.
I think we almost crashed. You remember when I was like super pissed and I was in Belarus and we were on the bike path and Eric was like trying to cuddle me and pretty much be like, hey man, it's okay. And I like tried to ride away from him and I almost slid out and they were like, that's what you get for being a little angry bitch. Like you need to pull yourself
you
back.
get yeah. I just remember those bridges over the canal that were like 40% and you had to launch over them and then like not die down the ice on the other side.
Yeah. But anyway, so
But
you get the contact that you're gonna go to Hong Kong or yeah, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So we like lose fitness. I raced Glasgow Omnium. And I get 15th. And I was like, okay, like the result wasn't what I wanted, but at the same time, I was like, I'm in this bike race. Like it wasn't like I was, you know, massively off the back or felt out of my depth. I was like, I'm in the race. I need a little bit more experience. Like I have this. And went home and only had like a week at home. And basically just tried not to you know, walk that edge of like, I need to do as much as possible and not be overworked.
Yeah.
And did a very measured, like, you know, I did a week that was a lot of ergo, a lot of 5x5
5x5
to like the best of my ability. And then went to Hong Kong and was fifth. But I think that race, I was racing like farther outside my physical fitness than I ever have before. Because I was like, okay, this is my Olympic shot. I need to at least be in like the top 10 to have an argument for another World Cup start. I need to be in the top 10. And I was not great physically, but I just was like raced really smart and just went ungodly deep.
Yeah.
And was fifth. And then it was like, okay, you know, no one else had gotten a finish that high in an Omnium World Cup on Olympic points, and that kind of changed the game.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes a big difference too, because it's like Hong Kong was said to be easy, you know, and we all knew like those were the World Cups, like Hong Kong, Cambridge.
That's where the team should have been.
Yeah, the team pursuit teams, and like, but then that's where the Omnium guys were also going. But then you start looking at the field, and it's like, oh shit, everybody had the same idea.
Yeah.
Like this is where we go score our last minute points, especially right before Worlds, because like that was what in December.
It was maybe the first weekend of December. It was before Cambridge and Brisbane. But any of the Omnium guys that like hadn't had great races in Europe were there.
Yeah.
So like, you know, Kaluga had come off a road season and had been pretty average in Glasgow and Minsk, so he was there.
Yeah.
The Kiwis were there, the Aussies were there. You know, it was still good, but the Omnium field on paper, I was like, or beforehand, I was like, okay, this should be like a good, you know, I've just done this insane Euro leg where Ben Thomas smashed everyone. Like, I'll go to Hong Kong, this will be okay. And it was like, you know, you get the start list like 2 days before, and it was like, this is gonna be really hard.
Who do you fangirl over the most in that field? I'll tell you who I fangirl over the most in team pursuits, just so we can both be equal.
Ooh, it's hard. I think there's a lot of. I mean, I think Ben Thomas is just on
he's
such
insane.
another level.
He's insane.
It's, but at the same time, it's so far above. You're like, oh, I can't even fangirl that guy because he's just a freak.
Yeah, and then you're racing against him, like you know. And you're
I've raced the Kiwi kid, Cam. I've raced Cam since we were juniors. Like we raced juniors together. Yeah. So I've always had a little. And he was like, world champ last season.
Yeah, because he's like younger than you are, right?
Yeah, he's a year younger than me.
There you go.
So like I've always had a lot of respect for the way that guy rides.
See, whenever I first got into cycling, Ed fucking Clancy, hands down.
Yeah.
Like that dude is a legend. Just because it's like when it came to team pursuit, when it came to Omnium, when it came to team sprint, and like the injuries.
Dude, he rode like Liège Bastogne-Liège. He's like the only dude who's ridden like a World Tour one-day classic, maybe Teo Boss, and like has a World Cup team sprint medal. Like it's
I would love to actually chat with Teo Boss about that. Like I would love to know what accolades he has in comparison to his track accolades. And
he was like a decent World Tour sprinter for a couple seasons.
Yeah, well, like that's the thing. It's like he was on Rabobank. I think he even rode for like Giant Shimano, which is like now Team Sunweb.
Yeah.
Or like Blank. It was called Blank.
Yeah, he was on Blanc. He was on Blanco.
Minute. Oh, Blanco. That's what it was. Man,
yeah.
That's like crazy to think about. But yeah, so then you go through this World Cup season. Still people didn't like, dude, when you told me that you were going to get 15th like if you told me you were going to get 15th at World Cup, I would have said you probably would have DNF'd. And then it was like you got 15th, and I was like, well, like I know this sounds really dumb, but like when you're in like between 10th and 15th, at that point it's a tactical like getting to the
100%
bike race
era. Even like I think like maybe not 10th, but I think like the back 10, like 14th to 24.
Yeah.
Is kind of just luck. Like it's like where do you put your wheel on the scratch race?
And then it would be interesting to bring Rob in on this conversation, like bring the science and the data into the sense of like what kilojoules we need to be like 6th. But because it's funny,
like I had a long talk with him for Glasgow.
Yeah.
I was 15th, and then Rob had all the video, so I like went to his room.
Yeah.
And had like a 2-hour conversation, and was basically like, what do you think I can do this? And we watched all the video together, and he was like, you messed up here, you messed up here, you messed up here. Yeah. But the power is pretty good. And I was like, oh shit, okay. And then,
do you think a little bit of it was nerves, like understanding your place?
Yeah.
Like respecting the peloton, because there's a thing, right? Respecting people's space.
100%. And also like I think, which was definitely true at Worlds, I got a lot more respect. There hadn't been an American, this is gonna sound really bad. There hadn't been an American racing where the Euros would trust the wheel on some level of like, you could get behind that guy and know he's not gonna let the gap go. So I think a lot of them like looked at an American skin suit and were like, I'm not getting behind this guy.
Yeah.
And I got shunted around quite a bit. And also like I just picked the wrong gears. Like I was not ready for how fast it was going to be. And I was just like, I think like a 102 will be fine. And I was
what gear do you think you need to ride? Or what gear did you ride at Worlds?
I changed around a lot.
You could just give us a general. Because there's probably a bunch of Masters dudes who are like,
this is who's actually listening to.
Yeah, that's probably who's listening to the podcast. It's cool.
For the scratch race, I had a 112 on.
112.
But and like at some point you're selecting race strategy based on gear.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way, like you're going to be sprinting for 4th at worst. I'm not going to be going off the front in this caliber of field. I'll just put the really big gear on and sit there and let the race come to me.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That was literally like track lingo right there. Yeah, let the race come to me. I'm gonna put a 112 on. Like, let the race come to me. Because like if you were somebody like a new guy at the track, it's like, hey man, I'm about to do a scratch race. What gear should I ride? And you're like, this is what you should ride. And the reason why you should ride it is because you're just gonna let the race come to you. They're just gonna be like, yeah, let the race. Okay, all right.
Okay,
I'm gonna go ask another person.
I've got a good, but you remember we did a Madison together in T-Town.
Yeah, we did damn good
sure
too.
Beforehand, we're like, we're gonna let the race come to us.
We did say that. Oh man, that's actually a good story. We should probably segue into. So, Gavin is trying to make a mark in the mass start at this time. Obviously there's some hierarchy and there's some like you have to prove the fact that you can be X rider. Just like I had to prove that I could finish a 4K.
The best way like it's ever been explained to me is like you have to be better than the guy that's in that spot. You can't
Yes.
be as good because then there's not a reason to switch them. You need to be better than the person that's there already.
And at least create a question mark of like, could he be better? You know what I mean? Like, it's in the sense of like team pursuing. It's funny, you had a Lambie, and then you had a Gav, and then you had a bunch of guys who were like they all had their strong suits. Like they all had a certain job that they could do, and they could do a damn good job at it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's funny because like I would have loved to seen Eric do the peel, but like Eric never got the opportunity because it was like, well, Eric can still finish 4, and
Yeah.
he actually does really well, especially when he's super fit. And then you have a Colby, and like he can always finish, and it's like there's this big mixture, right?
It was,
Anyways,
yeah, especially for us, like there was a lot of guys competing for not that many spots, and the way we rode certain guys like fundamentally changed how we would do the ride.
yeah,
Like
and it
who
was
you
super specific. It was super
really
specific to the guys. Like
yeah,
every guy could only do specific things. It was almost like drawing in the sense like I could paint and Eric could draw with pencil very well. Like it was that, like we're in the same ballpark, but we do 2 different things. Anyways, so Gav's trying to crack in, and it's funny. Our coach is calling all the guys and essentially trying to pair up Madison teams. I told my coach, I said, look, I'll ride with whoever, but I can tell you right now, probably nobody's going to want to ride with me because I haven't been, I don't have the aerobic capacity. I'm a massive mofo. And he's like, well, it's funny that you say that. Gav was the first one to raise his hand. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, not only was Gav the first one to raise his hand, but he was the only one to raise his hand. And I think Colby would have ridden it with me if he had to. I think he would have.
Yeah, but Colby also had no idea where he was when we were in T-Town.
That's another thing. I don't even think Colby knew who his team was until he got there. So he's like, yeah, Gav said he would do it. And I was like, oh, tables have turned. And so that kind of got me nervous. So then I started training a lot. And we get there, and we're talking with our coach because our coach comes up. It's funny. We're on this national team program, and he's coming to each individual like Madison pairing. And he's like, what are you guys going to do? And we're just like, we are just going to sit.
You're the coach.
He's like, yeah. It's like, we're probably just going to sit in. And he's like, yeah, that's actually what I was going to kind of like tell you guys to do. And I was like, okay, cool. Within the first 10 laps, Gav has rolled it off the front. And we have our coach in the corner. And at this point, I specifically think he's just coaching us because he's yelling orders to us specifically. And it's just, Gav made the call. And I'm just like, oh, can you hang that call up? Like, we got to get out of here, man. And then Gav's also off the front going, crap, I did make the call, didn't I? Like, I got to commit to this. And so we were just full stick at that point. We ended up 5th, man. UCI Madison. I feel like that wasn't bad. 4th?
I think so.
Even then, even better.
It was like deceptively good.
It was
against like 2 keys, and then I think Eric and Klein beat us.
Yeah, well, no, like, Eric and Shane won, I think.
I think you might be right. And then
yeah,
it was
because
like,
Holloway and Hedge didn't show up yet. They were racing like Tulsa or something.
Yeah.
And then we raced the Kiwis and the Canadians, and it might have been a Kiwi team and then us, or it was us. I don't know. We were the next best team. You know what I mean? It wasn't bad.
Yeah,
but
it was pretty good. I definitely launched though, and then was like, I've done a bad thing because we were all like, oh, we can just get, if we can get you to like the double point sprint at the end. If we've done nothing all race, we'll get 10 points. That'll probably be like 5th.
Yeah, we didn't even have to sprint I don't even think we sprinted for the last sprint. And we still were like, oh, that's all right. Yeah.
I think we were 2 balls.
I got yelled at by Bobby Lee during that race, actually.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I was pretty worried Bobby was going to come back after like 3 years out and roll everyone. It's going to be like, this is going to be bad.
I don't know. I might get a lot of shit for this. I don't think he could.
No, and he was racing with Stephen Hall, right? Who was like pretty off that whole month.
Well, it was interesting. Like Stephen Hall would be on, like for a race, or be off for a race.
An amazing scratch race, and then 20 minutes later would just be like.
Yeah, I think I think we both, when we raced Madison together, the reason why we did so poorly is partially my fault, because I think I based us doing well off his fitness and he based us doing well off my fitness. So he was just like, oh, we'll be fine. And I was thinking like, Stephen Hall, dude, I remember looking up to this guy. You know what I mean? But he just got into university and was studying the entire time in T-Town. So it was pretty impressive.
All right. I mean, yeah, that guy's a class bike rider.
Oh man, he's insane. But yeah, so then that obviously takes you to Worlds, and you now have to set up for Worlds. So, you know, you at this point you've gotten fifth in Hong Kong, and then do you go to Milton?
Yeah.
What had you do at Milton?
Third.
Boom. So you're just getting better and better every time. So based off the trajectory, you're supposed to win Worlds, and you don't.
It's pretty
suck.
much. That was.
We just both had a blank look. Like, if you're listening to this, yeah,
it was like you're getting 2 spots every time. So like you're gonna be world champ.
There you go. There you go. And so you go to Worlds. Like, do you change your training at all, or are you just like, oh, I just kind of have to coast a little bit off this?
No, like I'd done a block before Milton, and I was like, then obviously raced really well on Milton, and was like, okay, this is a good blueprint of what to do. And I basically went home from Milton, went to Elevate camp, just went full gas for like 6 days.
Yeah,
was just like, all right. Like I'm going to go full gas every ride, every sprint. Like I'm going to put myself in a deep dark hole. Did 6 days, and it was like, 32 hours in 6 days or something.
Jesus.
It was crazy. Did that and was like, okay, I'm fitter than I've ever been. Took like 2 or 3 days at home, didn't ride. And then came to the Springs and did like track prep for 2 weeks. And then we went to Worlds a lot earlier than I would have liked. Like I think I showed up like almost 2 weeks before the Omnium. And basically just hung out in a hotel room in Berlin with Lambie for 2 weeks.
That sounds like track cycling at its finest.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's pretty brutal.
Hanging around loose fitness.
Yeah.
Just doing ergo red box sets, 5x5 in the hallway.
In a very cold hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like did that, did some like very specific kind of points race sim work behind the motor here, and was like pretty confident. I was like, okay, I'm super fit. I have the speed, I'm gonna get a good result here. And I was really going in like, I would have been happy with top 12. Top 10 was like the goal. And then I was like, I think top 8 did something else for me for funding. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, if you can get top 8, that would be really amazing. But I would have been really happy with top 10 for sure.
Yeah. But I texted you after your race and you weren't stoked. So let's dive into that a little bit.
I just like, I made a couple of mistakes. I've been racing the elimination really well all year.
Yeah.
Like consistent through all the races was like really solid elimination race results. And then I totally screwed it up at Worlds and was like 10th. And was just like, there's a real opportunity because some good people were out early as well. And I was like, if I'd finished like 6th in that elimination, I would have ended up like 4th overall. So I messed that up. And then in the points race with like 20 to go, I was like, shit, I'm still on like decent legs. Like I'm not fully tapped yet. And I just started going with like everything. Like Viviani went and I was like, let's go. Went with that. We got caught. Went with Hansen. We got caught. And then Ben Thomas went. And I was pretty just fried, but I was like, okay, that's the move. And there was like 3 guys off the front maybe. Go with him. Takes us like 2 laps to bridge to the group up the road, and we get half a lap. And then I let like those three guys were just in the box. It was like last ditch, like, 18th through 21, trying to get the big bonus points at the end, as you do.
Yeah.
So I just like screwed up and I let one of them in between me and Thomas. And then Thomas goes 2 laps later, and I just missed. And like, there's 10 meters and there's absolutely nothing you can do. Like, that guy is gone. And I just missed the wheel, and he lapped with 3 to go. And I'm still, a quarter of a lap behind the field. And I'm just like, fuck.
Yeah.
And I've just like replayed that so many times of like, I had the legs, I just messed it up. I just let someone in there. And that was, that 20 points I don't think it would have gotten me on the podium, but it would have gotten me really, really close.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like crazy to think about, because like I texted you and I was like, yo, dude, I didn't even think you were going to race Worlds. And I was like, man, you crushed it. And you were just like, okay. But I think it's cool to kind of think about that for a second, is like, that's the mindset of a champion. So like, there's so many times where you were told that you shouldn't have won, you shouldn't have gone, you shouldn't have done. And yeah, you went, you did, and you won. Like, and that ended you up on the Olympic long list, which I think is fucking awesome. And like, we had this chat, like being a part of the team pursuit team, it was a heavy time in the sense of like selections and things like that, in the sense of like, well, even if I don't make it, it'll be cool to know that what we've been through together and what we've seen together, like, dude, we've gotten into shouting matches, you and I. Like, you've gotten
I've gotten into shouting matches with most people on that team.
We
I
all
think I was
have.
like the most combative member of that team.
We all have, in like our own right, and I would say, I don't think I ever got into a shouting match with Lambie.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I know you did, and that's the thing. It's like we've all been in a shouting match of some sort, but to kind of think about it and be like, okay, like Gab's gonna go, like there's an opportunity, like Hedge is gonna go, Holloway's gonna go, like there's this like, I felt like some sort of that support sent us that way, which is kind of cool to think about, and that's super exciting. But that being said, who's your favorite roommate? Because you're probably not going to have him in the Olympics. You might. I don't know. I mean,
probably have one.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard.
Rank them. You get 3. You get your top 3, and you can rank
Well,
them, and you can say,
top 3.
yeah, rank them, and then the reason why they are, and then the other reason. So a pro and a con on 3 people.
Ooh.
You see what I'm saying? So like, you could go like,
Yeah.
Eric Young, he goes to bed early, but he pees with the door open. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's hard. Like I was so young when this program started. Like I was, I was 19. And I think like almost like everyone has had a hand in shaping who I kind of am today.
Damn, that's deep.
Like I think Eric, it really helped me take myself a lot less seriously.
That's
like it's okay to have beer. It's okay to like, like shit like that.
Yeah.
I think me and Colby spent so much time together.
Yeah.
Rooming, because it was like, all right, 2 youngest guys on the team, let's put them together.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we like, we roomed together so much. And we got into it. Like, I mean, everyone loves that kid.
Yeah.
He's truly like, he's probably the only person on the team that never got in a shouting match with anyone.
Oh, he's coming on the podcast soon. So.
Oh, thank you. I've got a podcast idea with Colby.
Okay, sweet.
I'd say Colby was my favorite roommate, but I had to like also kind of bully him into not just exploding his shit everywhere.
Yeah.
And that was like a solid 12 months process of like, coercing Colby into doing what I wanted him to do. Now he like folds his socks, puts them away in the drawers. It's wild.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I had him as a roommate in T-Town, and we all had our own rooms in this like dormitory or whatever. but it was almost like there was like the Normatex. There's like one leg on the other side of the room, and then another leg under the bed, and then like a PB&J sandwich half eaten with like beta alanine on the plate.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it almost looks like drugs, and it's just like, dude, what is happening here? And he has an explanation for it all. It's like, oh, well, when I was falling asleep, I took this one off, and I ate only half of a PB&J post race because I got sick. You know,
You can't let him do that. You gotta be like, Colts, you gotta start the PB. Like you gotta stay on, otherwise it like explodes over the room. Like,
yeah.
Rooming with you was super fun. Minsk,
Yeah.
like that was, you know,
we chilled mad hard, especially in Minsk. Well, I think you got to experience the fact that on the last podcast when I was talking about our potential jail stories with Johnny Whale.
Yeah. I got to witness you leave the hotel at like 8 a.m. and return like 15 hours later with 2 helmets, just like
pale.
Yeah, like looking like you hadn't eaten since you left breakfast.
Dude, it was awful. It was horrifying. A day that I thought was just gonna be a rest day. Yeah, it was awful.
I know you were like, "Oh, this will be fine. We don't have to ride. Like, I'll just pop over here. Be back in a minute." I was like, there's also only one bed in that room. I was on a cot against the window for the whole time.
That is right. Yeah. So Eric, Colby, and myself. What's the downside about rooming with me then? I gotta know. You can be honest, dude.
All you fuckers that are married, it's just like fucking headphones on, like, "Hi, Casey." Like, come on, man. I'm like trying to, you know.
Yeah. You want to like go out for drinks and like Minsk at this point? It's like, well, because no, we're not.
Yeah, I want to go
Minsk
get
at that point.
Like,
yeah.
No, I had to go right to Glasgow, but it was, you know, it was like, I want to go get fucked up.
Yeah, and like go out, let's hang out, let's enjoy the scenery of whatever.
Yeah, like
had.
You know, we knew after Glasgow, or sorry, after Minsk.
Oh,
we knew.
We had a.
And I was definitely like, let's rally the boys. Let's, you know, even if it's just the hotel bar, like let's go have a moment together. And then like everyone just dipped. Everyone was like, I'm gonna go call my wife. I'm gonna go call, like Greggy's like, I'm gonna go call my parents. I'm like,
yeah,
come on guys, like let's, you know.
It was a bit rough. It was a weird time, man. That's like some of the most fun I've ever had traveling, while also some of the least amount of fun I've ever had traveling, all in one foul swoop.
Yeah, that was a weird experience for sure. Like it was, you know, like I think we still definitely really achieved something, you know, and like
we learned a lot.
Like me, you, and Eric were at the very first camp.
Yeah.
And to come all the way through that, I think was really cool. But at the same time, it was just like soul-crushing disappointment.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, if you would have said that I would have made it past 2017's camps, I would have been shocked. Like I had a decent first camp. I think I rode like a 440.
You rode better than me.
Yeah, in America at that time, that was actually pretty good.
That was kind of the time standard at those camps. It was like, knock out a sub 440 and like we'll see you again in a month.
Well, that's kind of how Colby cracked in. Just this pale white dude with blonde hair shows up, skinny dude, big head. All of a sudden is like rocking a 435 on training wheels.
Yeah.
And we've never heard of this guy, and he's a skier. And it's like, oh, well, Jesus, they're probably just going to recruit the entire ski team at this point. But come to find out, actually, Colby likes cycling. So, and he's actually really good.
Like cycling. He's a bit of a freak.
Yeah.
He also, like, he'll listen to this. I take slight exception to this point because he was 15-16 national TT champ on the road.
Wow.
And everyone's like, where did this kid come from? And you're like,
you got to understand our age, Gavin. Like, you know, I'm 20 something at
the
time.
No.
So I'm not like looking at the 15-16 national champion and be like, God, when he comes up, dude, we're fucked. You know what I mean?
For sure. But everyone was like, this kid's never ridden a bike. And it was like, yeah. Like he, you know, he hadn't raced really. He hadn't really been a cyclist, but like he'd ridden a bike.
Well, I think that was the same year that he was like supposed to podium in the pursuit. And he showed up.
Dude, I just remember hearing I remember talking to Jake at Felt.
Yeah.
Because Colby had the bike, and Jake was like, he's going to go sub 320 in the 3K. And I was like, I don't think anyone's done that since like Finney.
Yeah.
But he definitely had like an aura about him when he came into the program. Everyone was like, oh my God.
Well, I remember he was like going to come crush like the actual elite men's team pursuit. And he shows up and he's like pale face and he's just like staring at a wall. And you could tell that he hasn't rested. And I was like, yo, man, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I just got back from Belgium. I after this week, I leave for Labidity. Okay, man, you good? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the quietest I've ever seen him.
Yeah, he loves a bit of a deep, dark hole.
Yeah, there's only 2 times I've seen him in that hole, and they're a very precious thing. And honestly, if I ever see him in that hole again, I'll be sure to get him on the podcast, guys, because when he's in that hole, it's almost like a dude who's on drugs that's delirious and hasn't eaten in 3 days. And
the filter's pretty non-existent anyway, and then it's just gone.
Yeah, the filter's gone, and it's almost like you're like, hey, man, like, how's your day? And he's like, I like Chipotle. It's good. And you're just like, where did that come from, dude?
That's pretty accurate, actually. You ask, like, yeah. It's not even that coherent. It's like, Colbs, how you doing today? And he's like, what's the weather in Vail?
Yeah, dude, it's insane. So to wrap up the podcast, what are you most looking forward to? So like, what are you getting ready for? I mean, obviously the Olympics, like, but what does that look like? And yeah, like, how are you prepping to make sure you do the best you can be in 2021?
5x5. No, I don't know. I'd like,
besides training with me.
Yeah. You, Tristan.
Yeah. Full gas. Not on the, not full, but just on the pedals.
On the pedals.
Yeah.
Tension on the chain, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I need racing is what it boils down to. Like, I raced 3 World Cups and Worlds, and that's the only elite European mass start race experience I have.
Yeah.
So I just need bike racing.
Yeah.
And there's a few things we're looking at, like how I can try and get that, but I think trying to plan more than 2 weeks ahead right now is pretty pointless. So
yeah, no, that's for sure.
Trying to. I loved that. I listened to Johnny Whale.
Yeah.
I loved his theory on training. I buy into that 100%. Like,
yeah, well, honestly, he's kind of struck me with that training philosophy with Rob now. So like me and Rob are working on this. So I'm working with Rob Stanley, and we've come to that conclusion too, man. Like, just make it fun, man. Make it fun, but also make sure you're getting the work in.
Make it hard. And this is like, I've always advocated the 5x5.
Yeah, 5x5.
Like, just smash yourself a bit. And for me right now, it's like lift heavy, ride my bike a lot, do some threshold workouts. And that's about it. And then Elevate's talking about going to Tour of Thailand in November, but I can't plan anything. So we'll just see what happens.
Well, I got ex-alumni from Elevate coming on, Piccoli. He's in Poland right now.
You're getting Piccoli on the podcast.
Yeah, Piccoli. There we go. Oh. Yeah.
Ask him. Let's see. What do you ask that guy about?
Oh yeah. That's how we'll close out the podcast. Give us one question for James.
There's just so many. The guy is such a freak.
Well, I want to know the inside details on the Groenewegen sprint to this morning.
Dude, I've got a story about that. That's kind of tangentially funny.
Yeah.
So the guy that got messed up, Jakobsen.
Yeah.
I did this really horrible race in Northern Holland called ZLM Tour, and you go over these huge bridges, and it's just crosswind as shit.
Yeah.
And Sean Bennett crashes, and he's like race leader. It's like him and Nielsen. He's race leader, U.S. national team. So I stop with Sean. Spend the next 100K riding through echelons. Just Sean's in the wheel, and I'm just like, all right, we're going to the front.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna ride myself out of the bike race. I'm gonna get you as close to the front as possible, and then my day's done.
Yeah.
And at some point we go, Jakobsen was U23 Dutch national champ as well.
Yeah.
And at some point we just see this like lone rider coming back out of the front break. And it's Dutch national champ kit. But in the time it's taken him to get dropped from the front echelon and get to where we are, he's put leg warmers on and a full like thermal jacket. It is just tapping out like 200 watts. Just like, yeah, day's done, huh? It's draining now. And we went by it and we were both just like, fuck, we're still like 3 minutes from the front of the race.
That ain't happening. Yeah, that ain't happening. Ain't getting up there.
Yeah.
So, all right. So
I would ask James, either ask him about the amount of Halo Top he consumes.
Halo Top. Oh, that's interesting.
Ask him about how he didn't do Winston-Salem crit last year, and then we still put him in the split because we're good teammates.
Oh, man. So I'm going to ask him how he felt about that.
You should ask him how he felt not paying us back by winning the road race the next day.
I think that's
like the you know, unspoken agreement was we were going to go make a bunch of money in the crit, although Eric gets rolled by Stephen Bassett.
Oof.
And then we were going to put James in the split, and he was going to go win the road race the next day.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it, and it was.
But I think that's a thing. Like I think I've heard like some of those higher end pro teams, like if they go to a crit, and let's say they win 10 grand. I know they don't win 10 grand, but I'm just using it as a number.
We made 10 grand.
Okay, well there's 10 people on the team, but 6 are at the crit. They still split it 10 ways.
Yeah.
And so the teams work differently. Yeah.
We just do split for the guys in the race. James was at the race and just didn't do the crit because you know had a pro tour contract waiting for him and didn't want to take a bunch of risks.
Hey, valid. He's at the Tour of Poland right now. That racing that you wanted to do, yeah, he's doing that right now. Well, anyways, Gavin, thank you so much, man. Guys, if you haven't already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also, check out Gavin's social media. It's going to be down in the description below. Thank you.